Welcome to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. Have a question for the show or need assistance with your retirement plan? Give Philip a call today. 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815.
Millions of Americans have retirement savings in a traditional 401k or IRA. If you're one of them, how much of that money will you actually get to spend in retirement? You don't want to forget that Uncle Sam still wants his share. Plus, Philip Statler has the latest on the Biden administration's proposal to eliminate a popular strategy for helping reduce your income tax bill in retirement. Boy, we have a lot to talk about today. We are so glad you're here with us on the Statler Financial Radio Show. Philip, I hope you are doing great this week.
Doing well this week, Jen. It is springtime here in Florida for sure. It's getting up into the mid to high 80s some days, so it's getting darn right hot.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting warm. And, if you're not warm already, you probably will be by the time we're done talking about some of these these rules, these changes. You can get a little, people might get a little steamy when we talk, get a little steamed
hot
up.
Under the collar,
Steamed
right?
up. That's right. When we start talking about taxes and some of the possible changes here. As I said, if you're one of the millions of Americans with a traditional 401k or IRA, it's important that you understand the money in those accounts is not entirely yours. So that's the first thing that can get people a little worked up here. How do you talk to people about understanding the tax liabilities, Philip, that they have with their retirement accounts?
Well, I explain it a couple different ways usually. One is we look at it in terms of, hey, you have a mortgage on your 401k or your IRA, meaning that, when you take money out, Uncle Sam wants his part as well. You got to pay off some of him. And so the problem is you don't ever know how much is going to go in that direction. The other way we look at it is, hey, you have a partner. Mm-hmm. You don't own this 100%. It's a partnership between you and Uncle Sam. And when you take money out, he wants his share as well. And the problem is, again, we don't know what his share is going to be, whether that's maybe you're lucky and it's 0%, or maybe you're on the other spectrum and it's, 35% of what you take out, and so we want to make sure that folks understand that when you take money out of that IRA, 401k, 403b, anything like that, that you don't get 100% of it. Uncle Sam's going to get a piece of it no matter what.
Yeah, it's really something that you don't want to overlook. And let's talk a little bit about the rules that apply for taking money out of our retirement accounts, because, not only does Uncle Sam want his share, he has rules for helping ensure that he gets his share and that he gets it by a certain time. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. He's got a plan. And believe me, the plan does not benefit you. It benefits him when it comes to everything. So, one of the things that's been in flux here lately is the rules around required minimum distributions. And what that is that's the point in time in which the IRS says you must start taking money out of your IRA, your 401k, your 403b, whether you want to or need to or not. You have to start taking money out. And the rule now is at age 73, you have to start taking some part, and in rough numbers, it's probably about 4% when you start, but that percentage goes up every year the older you get, Jen.
Yeah.
The other rule that folks need to remember is that if you don't take that required minimum distribution, there's consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And the consequences have improved, if that's possible. It used to be that if you didn't take your required minimum distribution, there's a 50% penalty leveled by the Internal Revenue Service.
Holy moly.
Well, with the Secure Act 2.0, they reduced that. Now it's only a 25% penalty if you don't take your required minimum distribution.
Whew. Which is still,
in any case, is no fun.
Steep. Yeah. So just important that we understand that, because there are these rules that apply. And I'm glad you brought up, because I was just getting ready to ask you, what about the penalties? Because there's always some sort of penalty involved when we're dealing with the IRS, it seems like. So, you think about this, Philip, for people who are wondering, okay, what can I do about this? Are there some strategies that could help us potentially lower our tax bill in retirement? Is that something that we can talk about?
So it is. So if you're not retired yet and you're putting money into your 401k, one of the things that I do personally is my 401k has a Roth provision. So I put all of my money into the Roth part of my 401k. That means it's going to grow tax-free forever. And when I roll it out at retirement, it'll be a tax-free money into my Roth IRA. Now, the company match is going to be tax deferred, but that's the first way that you can start that process if you have that available. I would definitely look into that. The other thing is that you can start a process of what we call Roth conversions, where you have money in your 401k or you have money in an IRA. You start converting it into a Roth IRA so that from that point forward, it starts growing tax-free. And so it doesn't come for free.
Sure.
When you do that Roth conversion, Uncle Sam's sitting there with his hands out and he wants his part whenever you make that conversion, because he knows he's not going to get any more. So, when you do that Roth conversion, if you're in a 20% tax bracket, 20% of that's going to go to taxes. And so, but that's the other thing to look at. And at least we are locking in some of that money into the no tax bucket, which is a good thing to do. Jen, in this process, that's exactly why I developed the core retirement design, to help people not just focus on taxes, but other areas too. But taxes play a huge role. It's one of the three buckets that we look at in our core retirement design. First, we look at risk. Second, we look at taxes. Third, we look at income. If you do not have a written retirement income plan, please give us a call at 863-285-3815 and schedule your core retirement design. That's 863-285-3815 for your core retirement design.
Talking today with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring, and I am Jen Rezac alongside as we talk about strategies like Roth conversions, Philip, to help lower our taxes in the future. Philip, for our high-income listeners, there are some changes that they need to be aware of that could be coming down the pike here. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely, Jen. Let's talk about the current rules first, okay, and what that really means, right? So, and people need to understand some differences that are out there. Currently, when it comes to Roth IRAs, you want to make a contribution to your Roth IRA, we can do that. If you are, $7,000 or $8,000, depending upon your age. If you're over 50, then you can put $8,000 into a Roth IRA. But there's some rules tied to that too, right? So there's income limits. As always, there's something. And so when it comes to Roth IRAs, if you make more than $161,000 for a single taxpayer or $240,000 for a married couple, then all of a sudden the rug gets pulled out from under you and you're no longer eligible to make that contribution. And so that can be a problem. And so we want to look at that as well as where we are in terms of other contributions. So then the other way we can get money into a Roth is via conversions, meaning that you can take your IRA, your current regular IRA, and convert it to a Roth IRA. Now, when you do that, because I get this question all the time, well, I don't qualify for a Roth IRA. If you have an IRA, you qualify for a Roth. Now, it may not be a pain-free transaction, but you can move money from your IRA to a Roth IRA. It's called a Roth conversion. Right now, there is no income limits to do that. The only issue is you have to pay the tax when you make that conversion. So everybody out there can make that election to convert their traditional IRA to a Roth IRA.
Right.
You just got to be willing to pay the tax. I mean, that's the bottom line. There's no income limits for that.
Right. And I'm glad you clarified that, but you did say right now. So let's talk about the proposed changes, because right now there aren't any income restrictions, as you're saying, but you do have to be willing to pay the taxes, obviously, when you make that Roth conversion. So what's going on here as far as proposed changes?
So the one thing that President Biden has proposed in his budget is that he wants to change that and put some income limits for people to be able to make their Roth conversions. So that which is crazy. So what they're saying is if you make too much money, you will not be allowed to do what they call a backdoor Roth conversion, which is you make a contribution to your IRA, because anybody can do that, non-deductible contribution, and then you convert it to a Roth. Basically, you don't have to pay any taxes because you didn't pay any taxes on that. But he's taking that away. If you earn more than $400,000 as an individual, or more than $450,000 if you're married filing jointly. So it's one of those areas where folks that are wealthier are going to have to pay more because they're not going to be able to convert some of their IRA money or do this backdoor Roth conversion, which is taking away one of the tax benefits that are out there right now.
Yeah, again, it's just another one of those changes to have our eye on. I know nothing is set in stone. It's just a proposal at this point, but these types of changes are something that we all need to be aware of as we are trying to plan for the future. And really, the bottom line is, Philip, tax rates are lower right now than they've been for decades. We've talked about that before on the show. That's why you talk about this all the time with people who come in and meet with you about that core retirement design. We know that the landscape here as it relates to retirement policy and tax policy is going to be constantly changing, and we need plans in place to help us stay ahead of it, right?
Absolutely, we do, because we know taxes are going to go up. I mean, just in 2026, they automatically are going to go up. And so we need to be prepared for that. And one way to do that is to have a tax plan in place. And again, that is part of my core retirement design. To look at your current situation and to put together a plan to convert your current traditional into a Roth IRA. It's not a one and done, folks. It takes planning to make sure that you maximize the tax savings and minimize the tax even in the conversion process. Again, that's why I developed the core retirement design. Give me a call at 863-285-3815 to schedule your core retirement analysis, where we'll walk you through our process to determine if you're on the right path for the retirement you always dreamed of. Again, that number is 863-285-3815.
That number again, 863-285-3815. If you have not created a strategy to help you mitigate your tax risk in the future. That number again, 863-285-3815. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. We'll be back.
Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
Do you actually read your financial statements, or do they get tossed in a drawer and forgotten about? You could be making an expensive mistake by not taking the time to look at them. If you're paying high fees in your retirement portfolio, it could be costing you tens of thousands of dollars or more over your lifetime. Imagine the difference an extra $100,000 could make in your retirement. Statler Financial Services can help you uncover any hidden fees in your retirement accounts. Call today to schedule a time to talk about your situation. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. When you're close to retirement, every dollar matters. Would you like to know where your money is going? Find out what kind of fees you're really paying. Statler Financial Services can help. 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
Time to retire right. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. Let's talk a little bit about some of the topics to put on your retirement planning list. Now, Philip, I love lists. I love checklists. I'm one of those people who, at the end of the day, if I did some things that weren't on my list, go ahead and put them on there just so I have the satisfaction of checking them off. So this is really up my alley when we start talking about our retirement planning list. But, you know, I don't know if this happens to you, Philip. Sometimes your to-do list can get kind of out of control. It can get a little bit overwhelming, and then you just kind of check out and you shut down and you start avoiding the things on your list because there's just too many of them. So we don't want to overwhelm our listeners today. We want to keep it simple. Let's do this. I'm going to challenge you, Philip. Just give me 3 things. What would be your top 3 topics for your retirement planning list? And then we'll work from that for the rest of the show.
All right, man. So you don't want me to give you the whole, 2-3 pages I have on my legal pad here?
We don't want to be freaking out about this. No.
that definitely overwhelms me. I used to keep checklists. And you get 2 or 3 pages and it's like, forget it. So now I write down 5 things I need to get done today, and that's it. Works much better. But hey, let's talk about 3 things that we need to make sure that we have buttoned down when it comes to retirement planning. Mm-hmm. And those 3 things are going to be income, because when you retire, you lose a paycheck. 2 is going to be healthcare / long-term care, because we don't know, our health is not guaranteed. You can be healthy today and not tomorrow. And then this next one's a big one for me, Jen. It's one of those things that really, I don't think enough people pay attention to, including advisors out there. And that's taxes. That's taxes. Right. Mm-hmm. I think taxes are overlooked, and we underutilize a lot of the tools that are out there that folks could be using going into retirement.
Okay. All right. So those are some good ones that we want to put on our list. Just tell me a little bit about why this is your top 3. Why did you put these topics on top of your list for planning for retirement?
Well, I think that they go a long way to certainty, and folks, when they retire, they want certainty in their life. Sure. And so, income, knowing where that income is going to come from every month, having that income plan in place, well, that gives you financial certainty. I know it's going to be there. I'm going to get it. Healthcare, that is some uncertainty, right? We've got uncertainty there. We don't know what tomorrow holds. And so we need to have some plan in place to deal with those healthcare issues should they arise. Maybe they don't. Maybe we get through retirement and the end of our life, and we don't really have any major healthcare setbacks. And that's great. But we need to have a plan in place in case we do. Mm-hmm. And then taxes. I believe that we are in the lowest tax brackets that you and I will ever see. And so now is the time to be proactive, not reactive when it comes to taxes. Mm-hmm. And I think there are some strategies out there that folks don't pay attention to that could be utilized to put them in a better position, not necessarily today, but in 10 years, when I believe tax rates are going to be skyrocketing.
All right. Those are some good points there. And I guess, Philip, for people who are feeling overwhelmed by retirement, because, I mean, you're going to simplify this throughout the next couple segments of the show today and just focusing on these 3 things. A lot of people feel overwhelmed by planning for retirement. Maybe they're worried they haven't done enough to prepare for it. What do you tell those folks who are feeling overwhelmed or just concerned about their current situation?
Well, I think that don't be, right? Just reach out to a professional and sit down with them and let them help you. Be prepared, right? I mean, that's all it is we've got this uncertainty about retirement because, one, we've never done it before. And so talk to somebody that's walked other folks down that path of retirement to make sure that you've got all your ducks in a row and that you've got the plan in place that you need to make sure that you're going to have the retirement you always dreamed of. So that's exactly, Jen, why we created our core retirement design, in order to help folks design the retirement they always dreamed of. give us a call at 863-285-3815. Look, the first 30 minutes is on me. All you have to do is call, set it up at the office, and we will reach out and have a phone meeting, a Zoom meeting, whatever you want. 863-285-3815 to make sure you have all the pieces in place for that retirement. That's what our core retirement design is all about. Putting the pieces into place, helping you design that retirement so that you have that confidence to know that your retirement is what you want it to be. Again, that number is 863-285-3815.
This is the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring, and I am Jen Rezac alongside, talking today about the top 3 items on our retirement planning checklist. And certainly income is one of those very important ones to think about. But Philip, when we're looking at income, how do we back up? How do we know if we've saved enough to retire that we'll have enough saved to get that income from in retirement?
Well, I think for us, we kind of go backwards, right? I think that you need to know the end first, not how much do I need in my bucket. Mm-hmm. We need to know how much income are you going to need when you retire? What is it? What are we replacing? What do we need? Mm-hmm. Because then that helps us decide what we need to do to get to that number. That gives us a number that we know you need to have to be able to retire comfortably. And so that's our starting point. It's not how much do I need, it's how much are we going to need from income? Okay. And then we can work backwards to kind of get what that number looks like.
Gotcha. And let's talk a little bit about the ways we can generate that income in retirement. Philip, tell me about some of the conversations that you have. What are some of the options for generating income out of that savings that we have?
So we put together, I'm a big bucket guy, right? So we'll have buckets of money. Right. So typically we're going to see folks have somewhere between 4 and 6 buckets of money, right? That first bucket is going to be just savings money, right? Emergency money, in case you need it, it's there. Probably won't earn much, but you can put your fingers on it.
Sure.
The second is going to be an income bucket. And the income bucket depends on what's happening in the current economy, right? We, a lot of times, will use a conservative portfolio for our growth, not our growth bucket, for our income bucket, right? So we'll pull income out of that on a regular basis. We'll sprinkle in usually some annuities, because annuities will do 2 things. One, they give us some safety and principal. If we use the index annuities that we like and think that they make the most sense. So there's no risk to our principal. And we structure those so that they come due when we need them for our income. And then the growth bucket, well, the growth bucket is going to be the growth bucket, right? It's going to be sitting out there in the stock market, with ups and downs and ebb and flows. The other area that sometimes we'll pull income from, Jen, is we'll have a dividend portfolio. And that dividend portfolio does a couple things for us. It creates income, but it also, at least right now under the current tax code, gives us some favorable income because it gets taxed more like long-term capital gains instead of ordinary income.
So let's talk a little bit about how having a true retirement income plan, what you would put together for somebody as an income plan, how is that different from recognizing, Philip, I have some of these different places where my money is, and I'm just going to take withdrawals at a time that I think makes sense. Talk a little bit about the difference between what you would describe as a true income plan and somebody who's got a bunch of different things that they just want to take money out of when they get to retirement.
So here's my analysis of that, right? So I call that the income plan versus the junk drawer plan, because that's what folks have, right? They have a bunch of stuff. And if you open your junk drawer at the house, there's a bunch of stuff in there. It's all useful, usually. There's batteries, there's wrenches, there's there's screwdrivers, all stuff that you may need, and they're there. But there's no plan on how they get used. And I call that the same thing. So people have a lot of stuff. They have a lot of products. They have mutual funds. They have annuities. They have brokerage accounts, but they don't have a plan. And so that plan puts them all together and says, here's how they're all going to work together, right? Because we have IRA money, we have non-qualified money, what's the most tax effective way? Well, I see so many people say, well, I'm just going to take it out of my IRA over here. Well,
Sure.
maybe, just maybe that's not the most tax efficient way for you to be taking money out. And having that plan in place helps increase that efficiency when it comes to taxes, because most people, the majority of their money is in IRAs, retirement accounts, taxable money. And so we want to sprinkle that in with non-taxable money and try to eliminate as much as we can when it comes to taxes. And folks, that's why we help create what we think is the best thing you can have when it comes to retirement, and that's an income plan. So many people do not, I mean, statistically, it's out there. People do not have a retirement income plan. They may have a financial plan that they did 15, 20 years ago.
Sure.
It's outdated. You know, it's not going to give you what you need now when it comes to that income plan. And so putting together that income plan, really, one, it makes people think about, what am I going to need? What are my true expenses that I need to cover? And then when are we going to take Social Security? Because that plays into the whole role, right? I was meeting with a guy the other day. He's a younger gentleman, and he wants to retire in 10 years. So he'll be in his early 60s, and he thinks he wants to take Social Security. And I look and I ran the numbers. We put together an income plan, and literally, Jen, if he waits until he's 67 to start drawing a Social Security, even though he's taking out the money he needs from 62 to 67, he literally ends up with more money at the end of 40 years in his accounts than if he started taking it at 62.
Really?
So it's running those numbers and knowing what those numbers mean for you that make the difference.
Wow.
That's why income planning is so important, folks. That's why we developed our core retirement design, to walk you through that process, to put you in a place that you can make the right choices so you have the retirement you always dreamed of. Give us a call at 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Or you can go to our website at statlerfinancial.com, sign up for your 30-minute phone call. It's that simple. It's that easy, folks. Don't go into retirement without an income plan. 863-285-3815.
Talking today with Philip Statler. He is the president and CEO of Statler Financial Services. If you have a healthy balance in your retirement accounts, great job. That's what we're all trying to do. But a healthy balance isn't an income plan. We'll get into that a little bit more on the other side of the break. Stay with us. This is the Statler Financial Radio Show. We'll be back.
Turn your plans of yesterday into yes today. Don't wait another day for a routine checkup of your retirement plans. Call Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815.
It's nice when you get everything on your list in one place, isn't it? Philip Statler at Statler Financial Services agrees. That's why he offers comprehensive retirement planning all under one roof. You shouldn't have to go one place for information about tax planning, another for estate planning, and another for retirement income planning. That's why Statler Financial Services was started. Philip wanted to build a company that could help families with all aspects of their retirement. Statler Financial is more than just convenient, they're knowledgeable and experienced. To set up a meeting with Philip Statler and his team to talk about your retirement plan, all of it, call 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. Statler Financial Services, one stop for a wealth of retirement solutions. 863-285-3815. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
I want to help you understand some things. Number one, timing of your RMD, because they could potentially push you into a higher tax bracket. Imagine how fast your savings could shrink if you rack up penalties along with taking regular withdrawals and paying taxes.
Welcome back to the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler and co-host Jen Rezac.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here alongside Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services in Sebring, talking today about some of the items that need to go on our retirement planning checklist, and income is certainly one of them. And Philip, just because you have a healthy balance in your retirement savings account doesn't mean you have an income plan like we were just talking about. You still have some work to do, and one of the things you need to think about is preserving your income from some of the different risks that are out there. That's an important piece of this, Philip, rather than just having your money parked in a bunch of different types of accounts. Talk a little bit about some of the risks we need to be aware of and what can we do to help preserve our income from some of those risks.
Absolutely, Jen. The stock market is a pool of risk assets, right? They move up and they move down. And we saw a couple good years where they moved up nice, and we've seen a year where they've given back. Mm-hmm. And nobody knows what the future holds, whether they'll be up or down over the next 12 months.
Right. So
we need to incorporate not just stock market investments. Now, we need them. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
We got to have them. And I see people all the time that don't have any, and that's a mistake. We need to have that to help facilitate growth and to help through the inflationary periods of time. But we need to sprinkle in some other vehicles that are going to be more principal protected, where we don't have to worry about losing the money we put in there to stock market risk. And for us, we'll use index annuities. We'll use life insurance. All those things come into play to help preserve the asset. And so not all annuities are equal. Not all life insurance is equal. There are certain kinds that have principal protection. There's other kinds that don't. Mm-hmm. And so you need to know the tools you're using in that toolbox to make sure you're using the right ones for the right thing at the right time. And that's really what we kind of specialize in, is that expectation of, okay, we're in retirement or we're getting close to retirement. How do we need to set that plan up to make sure it's going to work for us in retirement?
All right, that makes sense. What about risks, Philip, like healthcare costs? I know having a plan for healthcare is one of those things that we want to be thinking about. We've got that on our short list here today. Healthcare costs are projected to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars in retirement. The latest estimate from Fidelity says the average 65-year-old couple can expect to spend over $300,000 throughout retirement, and that doesn't even include long-term care. So how do we prepare for that one?
It's funny. I keep looking at that number, and I think in the last 3 years, it's gone up $65,000.
It keeps going up.
It keeps going up. And I get it, because Medicare keeps raising their premiums. Medicare supplements keep going up. So all that gets added into that healthcare cost, right? So I think this one, you need to make sure that you make the right decision when it comes to your Medicare options, right? If you're heading into retirement, you're 65, what do I choose? Do I use an Advantage plan? Do I get an old-fashioned supplement? Those are questions that you really need to look carefully at and make sure that you're going to make the right choice for your health situation going forward. The other thing that you mentioned was long-term care, right? That the numbers they talk about in the Fidelity study don't even include long-term care.
Right.
And we can't go into retirement without at least having some plan in place for long-term care. Now, there's a lot of different options out there, and we'll talk about those in a little bit, but we need to have a plan in place. And that's crucial as you head into retirement.
What are some of the options? Let's go ahead and get into that. What are some of the options for addressing those long-term care costs? I know it's pretty different for retirees today than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, right?
It is. There are some more options, but let's just talk about the old tried and true option, right? Number one is you've got long-term care insurance.
Yeah, just standalone, right? Long-term care policy. Okay.
Long-term care, you go, you buy it, pay for it. It's expensive. It's got different things. Back 20 years ago, you could get a policy that was lifetime. right? You have a lifetime benefit. Man, it is tough to find a lifetime benefit now. If you do, it's a Cadillac policy. It's pretty expensive, right?
Right.
And so now we're seeing times where they have a 3-year or 5-year benefit period for that long-term care. But it's an option, right? It's something I think everybody should at least look at to see if it makes sense for them. So the other tools that are out there is a couple. One is life insurance. So there are life insurance companies that have developed life insurance contracts that will have a long-term care rider or benefit within that contract. And so this is a great option if you're thinking, I'll never need it, but if I do, I've got it. If I don't, my kids will get the money when I pass away. Now, the benefit is it's there if you need it. The downside is if you need it, it reduces the death benefit, which only makes sense, right? So that's an option there. There are annuities that have long-term care riders on. They're made for long-term care. Same thing there. If you have to use it, well, it's going to reduce the value of that annuity to your beneficiaries. So that's another option. Lastly, you don't do anything. Well, because that's an option, right? We do that.
I suppose, yeah.
You need to understand what happens when you make that choice, right? What it puts your family through, what you have to do, what it takes to qualify for Medicaid, what you have to get rid of, what you have to spend down. I mean, there's a lot of rules and regulations when it comes to that. And so people need to understand what that is. Folks, if you don't know where you are when it comes to long-term care, it's just one of the areas you need to look at. Give us a call at 863-285-3815, and let's just have a discussion about that part of it.
That number again, 863-285-3815. Philip, let's talk about one of the other items on our list here today, and that is taxes. This seems like a pretty significant one, an important one to talk about. How often do people overlook taxes as they're planning for retirement? Seems like we think about it during tax season, but not necessarily in the context that you like to talk about it.
Now you're getting to where I like to talk.
That's right. I thought you might like that.
Here's the deal, right? So it is important, and it is always overlooked. And that's sad, because I see people wasting tax brackets, and it's, I sometimes say, well, I wish you'd have seen me 3 years ago. We could have wiped out that IRA and you'd have paid no money on it, no taxes on it. And so we still try to do that for our clients. We run the numbers, and we'll sit down and we'll put together rough conversion plans, because now is the time, because in 2026, taxes go up. So we've got a short window to do a lot of work in.
We do have a short window to do a lot of work in, and it's getting even shorter. I was glancing at the calendar as you were saying that. It seemed like Philip, it wasn't all that long ago that it seemed like, oh my goodness, it will be so far before these tax rates change, but it's just getting closer and closer and closer. And I just think it's so important that we recognize that. And Philip, especially when we're having this conversation about the difference between tax planning, thinking long-term ahead, thinking about when these tax rates expire versus just getting our taxes prepared every year, because those are two totally different things.
Very different things. So tax preparation is just that, right? You take your stuff to somebody, they prepare your taxes and say, hey, look, you're getting a refund, or unfortunately you owe money, one or the other, right? The other case is being proactively planning. Doing tax planning means I'm putting out a plan for the next, 3, 5, sometimes we go at 8 years of planning to help reduce the overall tax bill, not just to the individual, but to the individual's whole family. What does that look like? Because, folks, when you retire, your biggest asset 90% of the time is your IRA. And with the Secure Act 1.0, when you pass away, your kids are going to inherit it, and they've got to liquidate it within 10 years. And most of the time they are in their highest earning years, meaning they're paying their highest taxes they're going to ever pay. And now they got to add more on with your IRA they just inherited. So there's some planning there. It is important. People don't pay enough attention to doing tax planning. Everybody out there wants to get your money, invest it. They don't want to take the time to do the planning to make sure that you pay the least amount in taxes over your lifetime as possible.
Yeah. And it's getting so much closer. Like I said, when this first passed, it was the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And it seemed like so many years until these tax rates would expire. But now, oh my goodness, it's just getting closer and closer. Philip, just real quickly, walk us through the process here as you're helping people have this conversation and do some of that analysis as to their situation and how do we map out our path forward. Walk me through that real quickly, what this looks like.
So our process is pretty simple, right? First, we want to have a 30-minute conversation with you, whether that's a Zoom meeting, a telephone call. A couple of reasons. One, we want to make sure you're on the right path, that we can actually help you map out the retirement you always dreamed of. Second, we're going to get together and we're going to run a couple of different things. One, we're going to look to see how much risk you have in your current portfolio. Two, we're going to run some cursory Roth conversion numbers to see what makes sense for you and how much money you could be saving your whole family by doing some Roth conversions. And then thirdly, we're going to make sure you have an income plan in place to make sure that you're going to have the income that you need in retirement. 863-285-3815 or statlerfinancial.com.
There are so many big decisions you have to weigh as you head into retirement. Coming up in our retirement yay or nay segment, the pros and cons of retiring without leaving an inheritance. We'll be back in just a moment. Stay with us.
Do you have a retirement plan but would like a second opinion? Call Philip Statler today, 863-285-3815. Statler Financial Services, 863-285-3815. Do you actually read your financial statements, or do they get tossed in a drawer and forgotten about? You could be making an expensive mistake by not taking the time to look at them. If you're paying high fees in your retirement portfolio, it could be costing you tens of thousands of dollars or more over your lifetime. Imagine the difference an extra $100,000 could make in your retirement. Statler Financial Services can help you uncover any hidden fees in your retirement accounts. Call today to schedule a time to talk about your situation. 863-285-3815. That's 863-285-3815. When you're close to retirement, every dollar matters. Would you like to know where your money is going? Find out what kind of fees you're really paying. Statler Financial Services can help. 863-285-3815. 863-285-3815. Advisory services offered through Statler Financial Services, Inc., a registered investment advisory firm in the state of Florida.
Thanks for joining us today on the Statler Financial Radio Show. I am Jen Rezac, happy to be here alongside Philip Statler. He is president and CEO of Statler Financial Services, and there are so many big decisions that you have to weigh as you head into retirement. So what we like to do here on the show, take one of those big decisions, really dive into the pros and cons. We call this retirement yay or nay, and I think we'll have some fun with this week's topic, Philip. It is leaving an inheritance or not. To leave or not to leave an inheritance.
There you go.
Yeah. So
depends on if you're giving or getting. Probably.
I know. I think so too. So here's some research that I did. I thought this was kind of interesting. Do you know who Daniel Craig is, the actor? Please say yes. He played James Bond.
Okay, yes. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
got to tell me what they did.
I know. Quite distasteful. You have to have his accent. Think about his lovely Scottish accent when you think. Quite distasteful is how he describes the idea of leaving his children an inheritance. There's a bunch of celebrities who've come out and publicly said they are not going to do this. They're going to. They're not going to leave money to their kids. They're going to give it to charity. Daniel Craig's quote is, "Isn't there an old adage that if you die a rich person, you failed?" And he says he plans to get rid of it or give it away. Gene Simmons of Kiss, he's not going to leave his kids penniless, but he doesn't want them to become rich off of his money. And Warren Buffett says relatively little will go to his 3 kids. He's going to leave $2.1 billion in stock to their philanthropic organizations, but the bulk of his fortune will go to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So the Gateses are going to do all right off of Warren Buffett.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, man, I tell you. So I find one thing a little interesting there, right?
Sure.
So, especially Warren Buffett's, right? He's going to leave $2.1 billion in stock to each of their philanthropic
So the kids,
right?
I mean, they're all doing all right.
They're going to run it, right? And I'm sure they'll get paid for running their own organization. So it's not like they're going to starve to death, right? It's it's one of those things. But it's you got different people have different opinions on what they want to do, what they want to leave to their kids or their grandkids, right? So it's obviously a personal choice as to what they do, but it is interesting to see wealthy people and their take on leaving inheritance to their kids.
Yeah. One of my favorite ones, real quickly before we move on into the pros and cons, Gordon Ramsay, the chef. He does not let his kids ride in first class when they travel. They have to sit and coach because he's like, they haven't worked hard enough to earn this. They're not. And I think it's Shaq who reminds his kids, we're not rich. I'm rich. Not you guys. So those are pretty good. Just keep everybody grounded. Just keeping it real. So. But you're right. There's no wrong answers here. This is, a matter of personal preference and personal beliefs, but just kind of interesting to see some of these trends with some of these ultra wealthy people and celebrities and what they're planning to do with their money. Okay, so let's get into the yays and nays of leaving an inheritance. So if you do want to leave an inheritance to your heirs, let's talk about some of the things that you ought to be thinking about, Philip. What are some of the boxes that we want to check if we're on the yay side of this?
There's quite a few that I think people need to really and truly consider before they start giving away, all their money.
And one thing we should say really quickly also, you are not an estate planning attorney. And this is not legal advice. We're not doing that right now. I just want to
That's right.
be following the rules and whatnot. Okay. Now go.
Yeah. Now I can go. Huh?
Now you
okay. So first thing is you need to think about yourself. You need to think about your income needs.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to need in income for the rest of my life? And folks, listen, if you're 65, very well could be a long life ahead for you. And so let's don't get short-sighted and start giving away too much too soon, not knowing, that the end could be 20 years down the road still. And so that's one thing I think we need to make sure that we ascertain what that looks like before we start making gifts to our kids and grandkids. Second is we need to think about taxes and inflation.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those things are going to go up. Inflation may be up and down. Taxes, I don't see any way that they are not going to continue to rise over the next 20 years.
Yep.
Given interest rates going up, given our debt, I mean, there's just so much headwind there that I don't see anything that's going to stop that. You need to look at healthcare costs for yourself because that, as a retired individual, will end up taking a huge chunk of your income.
Mm-hmm.
And so you want to make sure that you're going to have enough there to not just cover your healthcare, but what about if we have an unexpected illness? Not just for you, but I know a lot of times, hey, look, if one of your children has something, unexpected illness, well, you're going to want to help that person. So we don't want to just give up too soon on our own account.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the tax implications that we're leaving behind. And then I think that the other thing we need to make sure we're looking at is, what about a legacy?
Mm-hmm.
Who do you want to leave it to? What is your plan for that legacy? Right? Are we just going to give away the quote, the exclusion? Are we buying life insurance? Are we putting money into a trust? What are we doing? What's the plan?
Mm-hmm.
Let's don't just, willy-nilly and say, okay, I'm going to leave all my money to my kids and do without, which I see that, and that's not a good thing, right? We want to take care of ourselves, and if there's anything left, the kids get it. But let's don't go through retirement without, because we want to make sure the kids get it. And when it comes to legacy planning, there's several different avenues out there, right? Gifting on an annual basis, the trust, like I said, to avoid probate, retirement accounts, with Secure Act, it changed some stuff. Yep. And so, there may be some better ways than just leaving your IRA to somebody by using some life insurance to make sure that they get tax-free money, because the retirement account, they're going to have to take it out in 10 years. Mm-hmm. And let's face it, when you die, they're probably going to be in their higher tax, higher years of earnings. So they're going to be in a higher tax bracket than you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, couple good things to keep in mind there. A lot that we want to be mindful of, a lot that we need to be considering here. And Philip, let's just talk real quickly before we move on to the other side here, before we move on to the nays and that side of the debate here. Talk a little bit about your process for helping people discuss all of these things, not only what's going on with our ideas for inheritance goals, but some of those other areas of preparing for retirement as well.
Well, I think a lot of this lends itself to the income planning process we go through because that's the key, right? Because then you can see where your income's going to be. How much am I going to have left at age 100? Mm-hmm. What happens if I do some gifting now? We can throw that into the mix and say, okay, look, I'm going to give, $50,000 away to all my grandkids. And so what does that look like? How much is that going to deplete your assets? And so that's all part of our core retirement design. Give us a call, 863-285-3815 to schedule that 30-minute no obligation phone consultation. 863-285-3815.
So, Philip, as we said earlier, and it's good to know all the different options here, there are no wrong answers here, right? Whether or not you plan to leave an inheritance to your loved ones, that is entirely up to you. No wrong answers. But whatever your wishes are, having a plan in place is important because those things will not happen without proper documentation, proper plans in place. So it's really important that we have these conversations, Philip. Just walk us through some of the things that we need to think about as we're approaching retirement, especially in regards to our legacy plan and other areas of preparing for retirement.
Well, if we want to do legacy planning, there's a lot of different areas that we can focus on, different ways of funding it, right? And so that's where I think you need to work with somebody that has all those different options available. What if, I want to support charities and through a donor advised fund? How can I do that? We can help you with that. What if I want to leave, a big chunk of money to my kids? How can I do that? And we can help you devise that plan. That's all part of the process of working with somebody that has the ability to really, all the tools that are out there, have access to them. Look, if you're not sure whether you're a yay or a nay when it comes to leaving inheritance, you don't have to decide now, but you need to decide soon. Give us a call at 863-285-3815. Let us help walk you through that process to help you decide which side of the coin you're on there. That number is 863-285-3815. Give us a call today. Let us help you solve the yay or nay issue when it comes to inheritance. 863-285-3815.
Thanks for joining us today. This has been the Statler Financial Radio Show with Philip Statler. That's all the time we have for this week. Be sure to tune in again next week for more insights from Philip, and we'll talk to you then.
Information provided during the Statler Financial Radio Show is for illustrative purposes only and does not constitute investment, tax, or legal advice. Information has been obtained from sources that are deemed to be reliable, but their accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed. Always consult with a qualified investment, legal, or tax professional before taking any action. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing company. Individuals should thoroughly review the contract for specific details of the product features and costs. Income payments and withdrawals from deferred annuities are generally taxable as ordinary income in the year they are taken. All investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. No strategy is guaranteed to be successful.
This radio show is a paid placement.